What's up guys, Squidlegs here, and I've been thinking lately about how I could help the WoW PvP scene. And that's identifying the biggest problem in WoW PvP, and I think that distills down to information. It's not only a game of information, much like chess would be. Collecting that information and presenting it to yourself, so it takes all these add-ons that are basically necessary. Arena add-ons, people are running weaker alerts out there with sound effects, so you kind of have to do that or else you're behind the game in that front. It's a lot. It's very easy to find guides from some of the best players in the world out there. If you're looking for that, this is not it. This is specifically going to be going over how to counter certain classes and to know what classes are trying to do themselves. You can figure out what a class really wants to do and you can counter that. So this is going to be the first video in counter guides, and I'm going to unfortunately start with my class. Hopefully this doesn't get a lot of views. Not only am I practicing the format for these videos, but I play Shadow Priest, and let's get into it. How to counter a Shadow Priest. So I'm going to go over first some key talents and things that you need to be looking out for. Big one is, where is their damage coming from? What a Shadow Priest wants to do is get dots on every target, right? They want to keep rolling dots all the time, but not only for the dot damage. Let's also take a look at their mastery real quick. The mastery just increases damage done to a target when the dots are on it. The burst damage is going to most likely be coming from 1 minute windows, and that is going to be through Dark Ascension and Mindbender. The Mez weak aura is out there. If you have sound alerts, is going to tell you when Mindbender's up. That's a really good indicator of big damage from the priest. So get your kicks ready. The Inescapable Torment, getting Mind Blast off and Shadow Word Deaths on your target. You're going to have your Mindbender fly to the target and do extra damage. And if they line that up with a Psychic Horror on the healer, followed into a Silence, that's kind of their kill window. How to stop the damage. Kick Shadow School. It's always really important to kick Shadow School. A lot of times, Shadow Priest will bait with Flash Heal and try to trigger that, oh, I'm healing myself instinct. So really try hard to hit your kicks on Shadow Priest. Mind Spike is technically Shadow Frost. So if you hit that, that's the best case scenario you can kick, because if you kick Mind Games or Mind Blast or Vamp Touch or any other Shadow School, then they can then go and cast Mind Spike right after. So that is the Mindbender version that you're going to be seeing out there. Potentially, I could see a Void Eruption Void Form build coming out, but right now a lot of people are still playing Dark Ascension. Another thing to note is dispelling Shadow Priest. So going back to Shadow Priest Mastery, they're going to get more damage with dots on their target. So dispelling the Shadow Priest dots, it does give you a Horrify effect due to dispelling the Vampiric Touch, and avoiding Shadow Crash. If you can avoid the Shadow Crash, especially if you're in double melees, you charge a Shadow Priest, a lot of them will just Shadow Crash right on top of themselves, spread the dots that way, and then that way they can keep outputting their damage. So this way they spread dots are with Vampiric Touch, Shadow Crash, and Damnation. Damnation is usually going to be on 30-second cooldown because of these talents. And stopping the dots is going to stop a very important talent here called Psychic Link, is when they hit one target, it spreads damage to basically all their other targets. Imagine stopping dots on a dot class is really going to hinder their damage. So those are two major ways to stop priest damage. Look out for the big goes with the Mindbender, and look out for the spreading of dots. Once dots are rolling on everyone and Psychic Link starts happening, the next go with Dark Ascension really does hit the whole group. And on top of damage, Siphene. This talent is really important to bring up. Kill these. Kill a Siphene. If you see it out there, kill it. So stop the Mythic plus cleave, turn, tab, smack, dead. That's it. If you're getting hit with it, you can't really avoid the damage. It's kind of like Mind Flay or any sort of channel. So if you go behind a pillar, it's still going to get you. You need to take down the Siphene and take it down for your teammates too. This not only a Mortal Strike effect, but it's going to do 1% of your total health every second. Also look out for Mind Games. I know a lot of us know what Mind Games is from Shadowlands and how effective it is. Priests still have it. All priests have it. So that's really all I want to go over offensively for the priests and what to look out for. I want this to be very high level. And what I mean by that is like big glaring bullet points for other classes who don't play priests or don't want to play priests. You guys can watch this video and go, okay, I know what a Mindbender is. I know what Siphene is, and I know what their big cooldowns are. Having said that, let's transition into defense. So shout out to getgoodgaming.gg. They have put together a brilliant site with all offensive cooldowns and defensive cooldowns, which we'll get into for every class. So shout out to them. This is great information and super needed in the WoW community. Defensively for the Shadow Priest, they have a couple skills that they're going to be using. First one I want to go over is Desperate Prayer. It's like a Battle Master trinket, except they also are going to heal for that amount. They're going to have temp health and also get healed for 25% of their HP. And if they are running the improved, it's going to be much more than that. I think it's 40%. So look out for that. That's a 1.5 minute cooldown. This is probably the first defensive cooldown they're going to be using. The next one I want to go over is Vampiric Embrace, which is a buff that goes on the priest, turns all their direct damage skills into healing for their team. You're not gonna be able to stop the insta procs, but if you see Mind Blast start casting in a big Mind Games with Vampiric Embrace up, that is a lot of healing that potentially go out. So stopping those things are gonna be huge. Last but not least is Dispersion. Kicking Shadow School versus Shadow Priest is very important. They're gonna be faking it a lot, but you gotta turn the Mind Games against the Shadow Priest. You gotta beat them at their own game. There's two notes with Dispersion that I want you to look out for. A lot of Shadow Priests will hold Dispersion, greed it as much as they can. I'm sure you guys have seen in solo shuffle priests dying with Dispersion up. Look, it's happened to me. Happens to everyone. But Disperse is also in the Shadow School. So if you see a priest getting low, they go for a cast around 40-50%, kick Shadow, call upon your team, get in there and finish the job. You got 4 seconds to take it down. I know some of you can do it in that time. take the Shadow Priest down. The second thing I want to note, they can't be slowed. They get a movement buff. What they'll usually try to do right out of Disperse is reposition, usually on a healer or a caster DPS and a healer preferably, turn that into a big psychic scream to then hopefully turn the tides of battle. So look out for that, because it's not just used defensively, it is also used to turn a defensive moment into an offensive one for them. So look out for that. Now I'm still working on the structure for these videos. I think now I'm going to go over like the glaring utility skills and possibly how to stop that. Void Shift is a huge cooldown. It's probably not going to reset in these arena games, especially in this meta where games are definitely under 5 minutes. Void Shift is just health swap. I'm sure you've seen it, which is a hard thing to directly counter. If you just have the knowledge that Void Shift is coming, it's like you're playing against a priest team and somebody's getting super low, look for the swap and then just immediately swap is usually the best counter. But this is a huge utility cooldown. If you're not focusing the Shadow Priest, they're then going to swap with whoever you're focusing, and then now you swap to the priest, they still have Disperse. It's kind of a get out of jail free card in that scenario. If you are focusing the Shadow Priest, they're probably going to swap with either their other DPS that still has all their defensive cooldowns or their healer who hopefully has their defensive cooldowns still. But look out for the Void Shift, as that is a huge utility skill. Another thing I want to note is Leap of Faith. 1.5 minute reduced to 1 minute with the talent that most priests take to pull their party members to themselves. So there's not a whole lot of counterplay to Leap of Faith, so I don't know how much I want to talk about it, but just I guess know they have it. Like I said, I'm still working on the structure of these videos. That leaves us to the final and maybe most powerful utility skill that Shadow has, and that is Mass Dispel. Mass Dispel is arguably the strongest utility spell in the game. It can pull your healer out of Cyclone. It can counter huge cooldowns, ice blocks, bubbles. This is probably common knowledge for every paladin and mage out there how effective this skill is. If you're playing with a mage or paladin though, interrupt the Mass Dispel. Stop it. Help your teammates out. It is a quick cast, half a second, stunning the priest, pulling them out of range, or running them out of mana. If you see a Shadow Priest taking their healer out of CC a lot with MD, they're probably not going to have it offensively to use against a bubble or ice block. So keep that in mind with the large mana cost. I think that's it for Shadow Priest. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I can do to improve this format. I'll be going through all the specs and tearing apart each one with the counterplay guide. Thanks so much for watching.